VHS, or Video Horror Society, is the latest asymmetrical game to come to market in direct competition with Dead by Daylight. It is developed by a company called Hellbent Games, and they are currently testing this in a closed beta environment with the promise of an early access release very soon. I was lucky enough to get access to the closed beta, and I have a few thoughts that I'd like to share with you, and hopefully some of these can be resolved before early access is released, or I can hear your thoughts if you've played or watched the game. So before I go into this too far, this is an initial review of the closed beta from my point of view. I've watched hundreds of hours of streams of this game as I was extremely excited for it, and I was lucky to get into the game in the most recent beta wave, which was about 2 weeks ago. In this video, I'm going to cover my thoughts on the game overall from both a positive and negative point of view. I will share what I think can be changed to fix the game from the negatives, and my overall thoughts for changes that I'd like to see going forward. If you do enjoy the video and want to see more VHS or Dead by Daylight content, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You'll find more Dead by Daylight videos and VHS videos on this channel going forward. So what I'm going to try and do is separate both the positive and the negative points of this video, so you're not just getting all the positives and all the negatives, but kind of a mixture, and we will go from there. So the first positive that comes to mind is the cosmetics. The cosmetics in this game are brilliant. There is such a range. It's not just head, body and legs like there is in Dead by Daylight. You can change things like the socks, the jackets, the t-shirts, even the hairstyles, glasses, that kind of thing. You also do get to change some of the enrage effects for the monsters and all the other various effects in the game. That being said, currently there is a lack of clarity on the items as to whether they can be used on all the monsters or all the teams, or whether they are locked down to a specific monster or team. This is something that I'd like to see changed going forward, and I think it's something very easily changed within the UI, so I'm hoping that Hellbent do fix this in the foreseeable future, preferably before early access and people start spending real money on this game. So in case you didn't know, the game is definitely going to be free to play. The monetary system that Hellbent is going to use is going to center around cosmetics, and I believe they have said that future monsters and teams are going to be locked behind DLC, which will need to be purchased. I do believe there is a way to grind them out with the free currency earned in the game, which is currently called Flux. The paid currency is currently called Fanbucks. Again, this is all subject to change between now and when the game is launched. But that being said, for a free-to-play game, the progression system doesn't come across as grindy as something like Dead by Daylight, where you need near 200 blood webs to just all perk one character. And that's not even counting prestiging. So it does show that Hellbent have put a lot of thought into the progression systems in the game, and there is multiple paths of progressions, from the movies to the journeys. There's even weapon-based progression where you can earn weapon-based skins and that kind of thing. So I'm really hoping that Hellbent doesn't go the route of Dead by Daylight, where the game just becomes so grindy it becomes almost depressing to play. And with that, I'd like to address one of the things that stood out most to me when I got a beta key was the steep learning curve, at least in the beta. Obviously the player base in the closed beta is very small, but being paired in your first games against players with hundreds of hours of experience is not fun. Games lasting from 2 to 3 minutes where you essentially just get stomped whether you're playing teen or monster, it just isn't fun. I'm really hoping that Hellbent implements some kind of MMR system to prevent this, else if people don't get in on the floor when early access launches, I can see there being a steep learning curve in the longevity of the game. That's one of the advantages that Dead by Daylight has always had, even with the old ranking system. As a rank 20, you were very rarely going against new players unless you get people intentionally deranking, and it was not as bad of a learning curve. I mean, it was still there, but it was not that bad. So hopefully they can get this addressed. The next downside, again for newer players, is the lackluster tutorial. So in the game there is a tutorial, much like Dead by Daylight. However, it doesn't really cover everything, in my opinion. So there's no information on how all sounds made by either the teen or the monster can be heard if either is within the terror loop. So the terror loop is the name for the terror radius in this game. Sorry, I think it's believe a horror loop, terror loops, something like that. But regardless, if there is a teen in the monster's terror loop, you can hear every noise that the teen makes if you're playing monster, and vice versa. If you're playing teen, you can hear every noise that the monster makes while you're in their terror loop. No information about what the pickups are for given in the game, other than the candy bar. No information what the omens are, which are the little alien things that appear around your character when you miss a skill check, why they appear, and how the monster can use them for tracking. These are all tiny little things that, unfortunately, right now players need to go to third-party guides such, so YouTube videos, that kind of thing, to understand what they fully do, what they're for, that kind of thing. There's no information on items or like the noisemaker or the radio, unless you go into the training mode or practice mode, which on the other side of the coin is absolutely exceptional. Having something in the game for you to test out all the weapons on each stigma, being able to test the items in a sandbox environment so you can see how they work, is such a good thing. However, I feel like there needs to be some kind of tutorial or tooltip of showing what each item does and showing its practical use, as if you don't know what it does and you've never seen it used, it can be kind of daunting to newer players to fully understand and appreciate what each thing does. I think even now a lot of players in closed beta don't realise that searching trash cans around the map is where you find things like noisemakers, or you find them hidden amongst the map. But trash cans are the equivalent to the chests that you find on Dead by Daylight maps, and I think that right now little things like that are missing from the tutorial. That being said, as I said with the tutorial, it just feels a bit lackluster. There are so many features and progression paths in the game, I feel it can be a little bit overwhelming. For example, the rentals and movies, that kind of thing. There's nothing in the game to explain perks, journeys, weapon modifications and mutations, that kind of thing. I've been playing the video game. I've been playing VHS for about 20 hours now, and I've only just found the rental video, and I didn't know that was something that was always available in the closed beta. Obviously, I think it's going to be a limited time when it hits early access, but again, it's just something that I feel Hellbent can polish up and hopefully improve for the newer players coming into early access. When you actually get into the game and you start to get a feel of how the game works, how the various gameplay happens, essentially what the objectives of the teens are, what the objectives of the monster are, the gameplay loop is actually really fun. I can see a lot of potential for Hellbent to really make a good game here. The idea that the teens have to interact with the monster to win is such a unique idea. When you look at games, I'm sorry to keep referencing Dead by Daylight, but this is the only other asim on the market that's kind of successful. You can essentially go a whole game without seeing the killer. You can literally just sit there, hold M1 on generators, and escape. VHS is the complete opposite, so if you enjoy having the chases and that interaction with the killer in Dead by Daylight, I feel like VHS is going to be a fun game for you. That being said, I feel a lot of players coming over from Dead by Daylight will need to realise that this is a completely different game. This is not a Dead by Daylight clone. No matter how much people think it is, or how it looks like it is 4v1, it's teens, it's horror, it's not a Dead by Daylight clone. And if you go into it on either side with the attitude of trying to play it like Dead by Daylight, you will quickly find yourself come unstuck. There is no scratch marks in this game for when you're playing killer to track the teens. You're heavily reliant on audio and sounds that people make, and you're heavily reliant on stealth. However, the audio can feel a bit weird at times. The directional audio, I can't quite put my finger on it. It's not, from my opinion, it's not that great. I mean, I originally come from games like Counter-Strike, and Valorant, CSGO, that kind of thing. And I feel like the VHS and Hellbent, they need to implement some kind of HRTF system to help with the directional audio. That's not to say that the audio is absolutely terrible, because it's not, but it can feel a bit strange at times if you're not used to it. Speaking of accessibility, people who are hard of hearing, it's going to really kind of suck, because sound is such a huge thing in this game. And I mean, this is kind of echoing what Pixelbush said on his review of the game. I do feel like a Fortnite style audio cue, like the little circle that you see around the characters, but forcing the sounds to mono for that person, so people with stereo headset setups aren't an advantage, could be a way forward. I know that's what Fortnite does. Yeah, I said the Fortnite word, but yeah, I think that's a really good solution. In terms of accessibility as well, a clearer indication what can and can't be vaulted around the map. As a teen, it's very strange when you first go into a game and you're running around the map and you can't see what can and can't be vaulted. Majority is usually banisters and things like that can be vaulted. But yeah, there's no real indication, so just a slight recolor of things that could be vaulted, for example, something like that, just something to make it a bit more easier to read. I don't think that would tip the balance of the game too far, but I think it would help majorly for newer players specifically. Character select, again, has no real information on the teams or monsters, such as abilities and perks available in their journeys. You do have to go into those specific menus to find them. I do think that is something that could be quite easily fixed. Not really more to say about that, and I think the only nitpick that I have right now, I don't know if this is going to change when it hits beta, because I know it's going to be released on the Epic Store, its own launcher, and Steam, but not being able to actively change your in-game name similar to DBD. I'm hoping that becomes a thing, because that could be kind of funny when you're playing with friends. You can have a bit of a meme, that kind of thing. And Hellbent have shown that they are willing to moderate their game and action reports, so it would be good to see that feature come available. We're pretty much coming towards the end here. I mean, I've spoken about the gameplay loops and how it's showing a lot of potential. The mini games for things like healing, getting drinks out of vending machines, getting the candy bars out of vending machines, they all have their own little mini game. And it's just something different. It's more interesting than just mashing A and D for wiggling, for example, or spacebar for a skill check. Okay, I suppose you're mashing spacebar when healing to keep the cursor in the cross kind of thing. You'll understand what I mean. You may see it in the gameplay footage in the background. One positive is the game is extremely open as to what region you're queuing to. So, for example, I've got a lot of friends in America. Some of them are on the West Coast, some of them are on the East Coast, and at times it can become kind of annoying when you want to queue with them and you end up getting on the West Coast server if you've got the wrong person who started the group in Dead by Daylight, for example. Having that just simple menu button to which region you want to queue to, I think that is absolutely brilliant. I'm hoping that it's not something that's going to be exploited, but so far it's really good idea, and the fact that the game is not region locked at all, it's just perfect in my opinion. Stream options, this is getting towards the end now. This is pretty much the last thing that I want to cover. The streamer options in the game, you have a delayed matchmaking, hiding your username, hiding the team's usernames. Come on, a game that's not even out has got that, and it's taken what, 5 years for Dead by Daylight just to remove names on the in-game menu. These streamer options are something that the entire community has been crying out for so long. Delayed matchmaking, it's brilliant. It's such a good idea. I know it's been taken from other games, but these are just basic options that should be available in every multiplayer game where content creators are actively playing. I mean, I can think even back to when DayZ was in its heyday in the mod days. There was such a cry for streamer modes back then, and people using overlays and switching scenes when they were changing servers. How here we are what, 10, 11 years later, and games are still not implementing a streamer mode as standard. Come on. But well done to Hellbent for thinking ahead, getting those streamer options implemented. I think the last thing I really have to say is how the beta has been handled. I'm not a fan. The waves are coming out. They started coming out weekly. There was no real set time. It's based on when they feel like they need more players in the beta. I feel like a lot of the hype for this game has died down a little bit, and I really hope it's not something that's going to be detrimental going forward. I feel like right now Hellbent should be focusing on getting early access out of the door, if not mid-February, by end of February at the very least. I think they're hitting that kind of crunch time of where they need to get early access up and running. The game itself is not overly buggy. It's really, really good. The social systems, yes, they can use a bit of work. But I think Hellbent need to focus on getting more people in and getting more people playing the game over trying to get that perfection. Because right now the gameplay loop is fine. Just get people in, get people playing, get that hype built up before that train disappears. But yeah, that's everything I've got to say about my initial thoughts and review on VHS. My initial plan is I'm going to do this video in 2 parts, so the second review will come later on, hopefully during early access, once we're a few patches in to see what has and hasn't been addressed, and what my thoughts are going forward with the game. As I said earlier, if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, all that good stuff. VHS content, DVD content, it's all going to be on my Twitch channel, which is linked in the description below. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.